We did it. We've teamed up, and together we've created something special. We are the Idaho Underground Sports Network, and we're changing the game. We're covering Idaho high school sports in a way that you haven't seen before. Together, we'll be providing weekly breakdowns and recaps while helping uncover Idaho's top talents at a deeper level. Trust us, you want to be part of this. Boise Sports Talk, EBC Media, and the Gametime Guru bring you Gym Session. Let's get to work. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Gym Session here on the Idaho Underground Sports Network on YouTube. We know that a lot of you guys have just recently joined the channel and subscribed. We appreciate that. We want to give a shout out to everybody who has been listening throughout the season and those who are new and now just like coming on board. Welcome aboard. We're happy to have you guys here as we chat about some high school athletics here in Idaho. You know, if you guys don't already know this, go to @Idaho Underground Sports on Instagram. Follow us there. That's our main platform. We say this every single time. It's probably where you guys found us from here on the YouTube channel is from Instagram. But if you haven't already, go to Idaho Underground Sports on Instagram. Follow us there and check it out. That's where we're putting all of our content. That's where we're going to be, showing everything on game day. And we have a blast. So make sure to go there. And like we've said before, our Twitter page is finally up. We're slowly making that, growing that a little bit more and more. Our main focal point here is Instagram, but Twitter, we are alive and well. We know the coaches are out there. We want to make sure that we're connecting these athletes, getting them in front of the right eyes and so forth. So we'll be on Twitter as well @ID Underground SN, stands for Idaho Underground Sports Network. So @ID Underground SN. So guys, as we get ready to start the show, I have to give a shout out to the guys. We've been seeing some merch. You got AJ with his EBC shirt on. You've got Ty with his Idaho Underground Sports Network hoodie on. Thanks in large part to Eagle Ridge Apparel. So we got to give a shout out to them. That we've had some sick, and I'm talking sick merch been flying off the racks the last couple of weeks with new designs and so forth. And we can't wait to get more of those out to you guys, the fans, the listeners, because they're pretty dope. And Eagle Ridge, they get the job done over there, and we appreciate them and all the help that they've provided us with. We've got BS t-shirts coming. We got GTG GTG beanies. EBC's got all the flair. He's got trucker hats and all sorts of stuff. And then obviously we're going to be creating some more Idaho Underground Sports Network stuff for everybody, some customized things. So Eagle Ridge is getting it done for us. Also, a shout out to D1 Training. They are awesome. Tanner Lowry over there, super supportive. We appreciate the support from the very beginning of the season and really appreciate their partnership with us. All right. So if you guys didn't already know, we've got Ty from Boise Sports Talk, AJ from EBC Media, and myself, Shane Larson from the Gametime Guru, and we are the Idaho Underground Sports Network. We're excited to talk about state football. This last week, we had the quarterfinals. Some big games that we're going to get into, some really big games, and some would call upsets or surprises, and we can't wait to break this down for you. So on Friday night, the way we split it up was Ty and AJ were going to be over. We were all staying here in the Valley. We weren't able to travel or anything of that, so we stayed here in the Valley. We had two amazing games here in the Valley. Ty and AJ were on site over at Mountain View High School as Meridian and Mountain View were hitting the rematch, okay? I took a lot of flack for this because I said Mountain View was battle-tested. All right, I said Mountain View was battle-tested and whatnot, and so everybody else was like, well, Meridian's battle-tested. And I'm like, okay, listen, Mountain View was battle-tested. Both teams were battle-tested. This was a fight. We figured it was going to be a dog fight. But now we get to hear about what actually happened there at the game from the guys that were on site. And so here we go. Meridian dominates, but we want to know more about it. So I'm going to start with AJ. We're going to have Ty and AJ break this one down for us because I don't even know if dominates covers that. That word might not even really show what really happened. So I want to get the breakdown of the game. Was it really domination? It seemed close at the beginning. So AJ, tell us your thoughts on the game and let's break it down.
I mean, Meridian ended the game with their JV guys in the game scoring touchdowns. So I would say that this was as dominant a win. This kind of was comparable to what they did against Capital at Donna Larson earlier this year, where you kind of kept expecting it to become a game, and it just never really did because Meridian was in such a rhythm and such a flow, especially defensively. They started really slow. Ugly first drive, interception by Mason Childs, couple drops. Mountain View goes down, scores, misses the extra point, and then from that point on, it was all Meridian. So it was 6-0, and Meridian scores 35 unanswered. Kind of a random shout out, 5 for 5 on extra points, which is a big deal for them, right now, and they've lost 3 games this year by a combined 5 points. Field goal misses involved in all of them. I think that was kind of a nice silver lining for them in this game. But defensively, man, when they're healthy, not a ton of depth, but when they're healthy, my goodness, the Ninja Turtles, I mean, we know they're real. They just flat out locked up. I don't know if Mountain View had more than 100 yards passing, but those linebackers were making plays. Nathan Reynolds with a big hit, forced fumble. Judah Argon had a pick, had a forced fumble. And, my roomie, Corbin Meisner, popped off. My man blew up. I'm definitely giving him, shout out. I even threw his shirt up today just because I'm so excited for him. But he had double-digit tackles. He had an interception, big man interception. Should have had another one, but forgot to take the bricks off his hands. But he played real well. Just all the way around. They just flowed. Offensively, Cross was rough first drive, and then Cross was, Ty, me and you talked about it. Cross was looking real passionate over there. That was not going to be his last game. He was emotional that first quarter, and then he just turned it on the touchdown he had where he got, on 3rd and goal, he got stuffed at the 5 and just drug 3-4 guys into the end zone and then went and gave a little leg flex to the camera. That's the level he was on. We saw them balanced. Ty, you talked about it. You want them to be more balanced. Papi Del Rio had a touchdown. He did his thing. Malachi had time to sit there and pick apart that very solid defense, who I think was probably the best all-around defense in the league. But this Meridian defense is improving. They got a lot of younger guys that are back next year, which we were talking about before the show. And I'm really excited to see what this team can go do with who I think is the top quarterback in the state. You've got that running game going. As long as they try to stay balanced, they're going to be really, really, really tough to stop, especially with that defense being healthy. But to answer your question, yes, complete domination. Mountain View waited for the wrong time to have that game. They had that game that, every team usually has once a year where nothing is going your way. But ultimately, when a team forces more turnovers than you score points, you're not winning a football game. There was 6 turnovers, and if you count a turnover on downs, there were 7 turnovers, and Mountain View had 6 points, and Meridian, bunch of ball hawks. They were trying to rip the ball out. They were making all the plays. Davis Thacker is back. Quentin Riley still doing his thing. They really have guys everywhere that can do a lot of different things. So really impressive, total domination, blew my mind. Shout out to Mountain View though. Probably the best defense I saw all year. Meridian was not afraid of that offensive line. They showed that. Meisner in the middle made a huge difference, and they struggled with him. And then those linebackers made plays, and I can't wait to watch them play again.
Yeah, before we get to Ty's analysis here of it, one of the things that I saw, I believe it was like the first interception of the game from Mountain View was a bounced off of Thacker's his shoulder pads or something of that nature. I think he was doing a hitch, ball bounced off of him, and I think that was Childs who got the interception, if I'm not mistaken. I was trying to watch that game while I was watching what we had going on, and I was trying to watch through the replays and so forth. The way that Thacker bounced back after that, I'm sure that kind of weighed heavily on his mind, because you, as a receiver, myself included, whenever I dropped a pass or I was responsible for something of that nature where it tipped off my hands, it should have been a catchable pass. It can weigh on you, and you think about it consistently. But I loved how he responded. I loved how the whole team responded. But Thacker just kept going after it, and he had an amazing touchdown that you guys got great angles for, where he showed his passion. I love seeing that come out of Davis. It's awesome to see him get that passion out there. That showed how much he wanted that. And it was just cool. Go ahead. What?
I apologize to cut you off, but that's not who all of us know Davis. Davis doesn't show that type of emotion. Let's get something straight. That's state championship behavior. Him recovering like that, him being emotional. Every one of those guys on that team looks at Davis Thacker a different way. He's a basketball state champion, okay? And he's not necessarily an emotional leader. He's more see what I do, follow what I do. But when he got emotional, he knew he had a couple drops. That pick led to a touchdown. You're right, man. State championship behavior. That's why I think that element to them makes them even more dangerous, having guys like that. Ethan Pierce, even being on the sideline, he's a state champion. Those guys know what it takes. So I agree with you. Great point.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Ty, I want to know your thoughts here. Like, talk about the energy, talk about what you saw. Like, both of you were covering the game, but it's from different angles and so forth. So maybe you saw something AJ didn't see, or you guys talked about it. Tell us what you saw at the game.
Well, to build off of what you guys just talked about, because I got to give Thack some love myself. This has been a rough season for him. We've all seen it, battle injuries on and off the field. This was the first game that that dog came out of him, right? And I was excited to be there for that moment for him to catch that touchdown. AJ, you called it. You're like, they're going to take a shot right here. So I sprinted into position, got there for the celly, and for him to show that was big time. And we saw a bunch of people sharing it. They took screen recordings of that video and were sharing it because that's not Davis Stacker. But if it is, that's scary. And pairing him with Riley, I still want to see Meridian get Reynolds involved more offensively, but that's besides the point. This game was a domination through and through. But Mountain View was their own worst enemy. Ball security, that's obviously a big point. But I knew this game was over at halftime because they're down by 8 points. This might have been their third time being down at halftime, which there's the meaning that they're used to that, right? Every single one of these dudes' all their heads were down walking into halftime at home in a state playoff game. You're not going to win a game like that. They were the alphas all season long, and to come out in a state playoff game and have that demeanor going into halftime, I knew it was over right then. So, and maybe that's a testament to Meridian's physicality, their defense, even though it was a close score in the first half. Maybe we didn't see how much Meridian was really beating them up, but I was disappointed to see that from Mountain View because these guys have let us know all season long that they're the top dogs, and they, after one half of play, showed that they were not. And that's not even narking on them, but that was disappointing for me to see personally because that was the team to beat. But hats off to Meridian. I mean, they were forcing turnovers left and right. We can say ball security, but really the Warriors were just forcing turnovers, huge hits, punching the ball out, getting great picks, a couple questionable throws that resulted in picks. But at that point in the game, Wall had to be airing it out and trying to get something going. So I get that to an extent, but ultimately Meridian just wanted this game more. And it started from the first whistle to the end whistle. You mentioned they got JV guys in there getting touchdowns late in the game. You also mentioned, so I've wanted to see not necessarily a balanced attack from Meridian. We've seen a balanced attack, right? But how they work off of those plays, right? And how they call the game is you got to build up those deep passes, which they did. They hit Thacker on a deep one. They hit Riley on a deep one. They went for Acree. Shout out to Jamie Campbell, I think, photographer from Meridian. He looks at me. He's like, "Hey, 84's in the game. This is going to be a pass." So I go sprinting down the sideline, and sure enough, they threw it deep to Acree, but unfortunately they weren't able to hit. But Jamie Campbell, he knows what he's talking about. He's been taking care of the photography for Meridian all season, does a great job. And maybe he's got a little offensive coordinator in him too. He knows what's going on. All in all, though, very impressive performance from Meridian. I'm impressed with their coaching as well. They kept their guys in line, called a good game. There was no turmoil on their sidelines. It was a clean game from them, and that's a scary team to have to play right now. This week's gonna be fun. I'm excited for it.
Man, Meridian takes down Mountain View, the formerly known undefeated squad, SIC champion Mountain View Mavericks, in their own home, which is crazy. Granted, it's only about 5 miles down the road. It is their home field where they've had a lot of success this year against some top-tier opponents, including Meridian at the beginning of the season. But Meridian came in there with a statement to make, and they made it. So it was crazy watching it from the Instagram stories for you guys' coverage. It felt like we were there. So if you guys are listening right now, make sure you're following us on Instagram, because when you're following the stories, you can sense the energy, the way that we're trying to cover the games from the sidelines. You're feeling the passion. You can see the stands. You're starting to see we're trying to show you a different lens of things. We're trying to show it to you in a different lens, coverage on the sideline, getting you updates throughout the game. It felt like there was so much energy when you would show the stands on either side. There was true state playoff, like state playoff football. Like that's the best way to put it. And it's just amazing. So the energy seemed like amazing there. Go ahead.
To that point, Mountain View was the loudest cheering section all season long. Disappeared at halftime, just like the players. I don't get it.
Okay, so let that be okay to that point. And we're
People
here
might not like me for that, but like they literally, it was silent. Students, parents, come on.
Here's the deal. To that point, and this is why we're bringing a new perspective of high school sports coverage, is because the fans are a major piece to that. Like a major piece to any sports for that matter, every level. But at the high school level, the fan base is super, super important. It keeps the energy going. That's what your job is as a fan, right? You're not on the field executing, but you are there to bring the energy, bring the hype, cheer, whatever, have fun with it. When you don't do that, I will tell you as a former athlete, when you don't have the crowd in it, it is extremely difficult to like pick yourself out of a hole. So like if you're getting punched in the mouth, sometimes you need just a little bit of a boost. And some people might say, you don't need that. You shouldn't have to need that. It's part of the game. That's why the COVID year sucked, because you didn't have fans in the stands. Like it sucks. There's an energy that's brought about. So for the fans, shout out. Okay. So Eagles fan base, who's going to be at home, Meridian's fan base, who's going to be at home this next week. Take note. Okay. What Ty just said, take notes on that. Don't be that team. Don't be that fan base, as well as Rigby.
That goes for the parents too. It looks cooler when you cheer. It looks less cool when you don't cheer.
It looks, that's a shirt too.
I don't know if
Ty's all coming through with like,
we can't cheer at games because that doesn't like, do we not look professional? Do we not look cool? Like, no, cheer, scream, yell, have fun with it.
Yeah, have fun. And because it's true though, the fans, like we'll hear like the parents are silent until they want to say something to the coach, and then they scream when it's silent at the coach, and it's clear as day for everybody that's on the field. It's great. Anyway, so Meridian dominates. Now just down the road at Rocky Mountain High School in Meridian as well. These are three schools: Meridian, Mountain View, and Rocky, all in Meridian, Idaho. Rocky Mountain High School, they were taking on Highland. Okay, and I happened to be there on site for the coverage of that one. Grateful to be able to cover that game. Really good energy there. I thought it was cool. It was my first time at Rocky Mountain's football facility. Like I hadn't actually covered a game there ever. I'd never seen Rocky play in person for football, which is crazy to say. But it was a really cool experience for me to be able to go there and see the game. Now, I will say this. This kicker, this is the talk of the town right now. All right. This is a game Friday night here in Idaho. It was very windy. It was a very windy night. We're talking like super, super windy, going from the south to the north, pushing the entire night. So it did limit a lot of the play calling, and I will say that. So it was basically a stalemate at halftime for Rocky. They were up, I believe it was only 7-3 at half. And then in the third quarter, immediately, it was like they had a touchdown on the first drive. Turnover was forced. They score right again, 21-3. All of a sudden, Rocky's in complete control in the third quarter of this game. Nobody was scoring. It was a very, very, like, as a stalemate first half. Nothing was happening because all you could do is run the ball. The pass game was non-existent from both teams. But I will tell you this. A couple of things that stood out to me. One, Jack Whitmer, quarterback for the Highland Rams. Shout out to him. He used his legs, and he got tough. He was using his legs. They were rolling him out. He was doing QB draws. He was lowering his shoulder. He was making things happen to keep his team in it, because at 21-3 in a game that had been that way the entire game up to that point, you pretty much felt like they broke Highland. You felt like it was over, and kind of Rocky was in complete control. The very next drive, Highland comes down and scores, so it's 21-10. And then the very first play of the next drive, Rocky fumbles the ball, and Highland picks it up deep in Rocky territory. Okay. And they end up scoring. So they ended up being down 21-16 at that point. And all of a sudden it's a ball game. And what you saw was Rocky starting to panic. And that's what I noticed. That's what I felt. And so to go to your guys' point about kind of like Mountain View, it felt like maybe they got punched in the mouth and they didn't know how to respond to that. That's how I felt Rocky was feeling. They started to feel the panic. They felt the storm coming, and they didn't know how to weather that. Now, they were trying. I'm not going to say they weren't trying to execute and so forth, but the play calling was limited based on the weather as well. So it was very difficult to open up the field. And with Highland having the momentum, it was crazy. Shout out to Ian Hershey. Okay. Ian Hershey is the kicker for Highland. We were talking about him at the very beginning of the season. If you ever follow our page, he was one of the players to watch in the very first matchup between Highland and Rocky. I was coming down the field at the very beginning of the game. I was on the one side of the field where he was about to kick a field goal. The assistant principal over at Rocky's talking to me about, he goes, hey, watch this kid. He can kick him from 60 plus. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. He's got the wind behind him. He boots it. And I'm talking a 58-yarder that cleared it by a good 10 to 15 yards, which I have never seen in high school football. I'll be honest, at least in Idaho. Okay. He cranked that. And so not only did he have a 58-yarder, he had a 50-yarder and then a 46. They say 45 officially, but I thought it was a 46-yarder just based on where they were at. Anyway, and that 45-yarder was to win the game. Then when they were down 21-19, and he kicks that clutch field goal with like a minute and a half left in the game and boots it straight through. So shout out to Ian Hershey. But what I want to talk about, guys, is like Highland kept fighting. They had this fight. They weren't flashy. They were tough. And all those field goals, they came like they were deep field goals. They were long. So it's not like Rocky was broken. They were like sticking them. They get right past midfield. And all of a sudden Rocky holds the fort down and then they kick a field goal. That was like, you wouldn't normally see that in high school football. So shout out to Ian Hershey. But what I want to talk about is this. And we've seen this at every level. We talked about this before we were recording. If you are playing a football game, especially in a situation like this, where it is the state playoffs and it could be the end of your season. For some, it's the end of your career. You might not ever play football again. Okay. Do not be worried about anything else that's going on besides the football game in which you are in. We have seen this in multiple levels. If you're checking on scores and you're talking to fans and cheerleaders about scores of other games that are going on, or you're checking your social media at halftime and all these different things, yeah, sure, we're here to provide the coverage. We're having a blast with it. We expect you guys to do those things when the game is over. Like, we're tagging you guys so that you guys can see that when the game's over. But if you're in there looking at your social media, you are not focused on the right areas. So I'm just going to tell you that Ty has seen it at other levels of football. AJ's seen it at other levels of football. We've seen it at different levels across the board, and it's completely unacceptable. I'm just going to remind everybody that if you're playing in a game, do not be having your phone out. That shouldn't even be a focus at all. That's not anything at all. Your plans after the game doesn't matter. Okay. Focus on the game, because I felt like that may not be the only point of where I don't want to discredit Highland, because Highland came back and won this game. They played tough. Whitmer was a stud with his legs. Eli Parrish, shout out to both of them, but Rocky wasn't mentally there. As soon as they went up 21-3, it felt like they put it on cruise control and they couldn't execute for the rest of the second half. So shout out to Highland for making it through that one. Do you guys have anything to say on that regard? I just was kind of popping off about the recap of the game.
No, I think you nailed it. You mentioned we've seen that lack of focus, if you will, from different levels of football now throughout the last year. And again, I'm glad everyone's watching our story. That's wonderful, but there's a time and place to do it. So got to figure out when that is.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I got players saying stuff to me on the sideline during the game at certain games. I'm just like, how are you watching Instagram right now? It's the middle of the third quarter. So yeah, I mean, and honestly, and nobody means anything malicious by it, but it's selfish. It is selfish, and it takes away from the focus of the team and what's important. And this is such a team game that if you're thinking about yourself or sitting over here playing on your phone, and if I'm a coach, no phones on the sideline ever. I don't, especially the dudes that aren't playing.
Well, and you got to imagine that that's already the standard that's been set.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, where a little bit of my confusion comes in, because if a coach sees a player in the locker room on his phone at halftime, he's gonna say something.
Yeah.
You hope,
so
right?
To me, you would hope.
Yeah, I agree.
So, just a little reminder for everybody. Now, we'll move on to the next game in the quarterfinal. So last week we were talking about this. Capital was going on the road. They had surprised us in the first game, the first round of the state playoffs. They had their big time players made big time plays, and that's what we were looking to see from them. But they were running into a powerhouse, the juggernaut Trojans of Rigby, and Rigby held down the fort on Friday night. Now, we obviously weren't able to make it down there as much as we would have loved to. Sometimes it just comes down to coordinating whether or not we can get a hold of some of the athletic directors. And also, obviously, it's a travel time, and we all have lives as well. We have things that we're doing too. So that's why we weren't able to make it. No disrespect, but so we weren't at the game. But I will say this from my perspective, and if you guys have any insight to bring on this game as well, just let me know. I don't feel like, from what we were able to see and what I was able to hear from those who were there, that Capital played a terrible game. I don't feel like that was the case at all. In fact, I think Max Clark played a pretty good game. They had some big plays at certain times. They kept themselves in it early, even though they got down early. They kept themselves in it with some big plays. But Rigby is just a different level of football. We've talked about this before, and this is kind of what has solidified it for me now. You have good, great, and elite teams, and that's in college football, high school football, whatever. Good, great, and elite. And I think Capital had gotten to that level of they were becoming a great team, but they're not an elite team. And there are very few elite teams, and Rigby, I believe, is one of them. And sometimes that's a big difference. That's like, there's elite teams that you're clicking in the right places that can basically be a bad matchup problem for most teams. And I believe Rigby is an elite team. Capital was at the great status and just couldn't hold it down. They got broken by the end of that game. Rigby's too physical. They execute well-disciplined team. And that's just what it was. I didn't feel like Capital played a terrible game. They just met a juggernaut. What do you guys have to say?
Well, first thing I want to say, look at the 4 quarterbacks still left. Arguably the 4 top quarterbacks in 5A football. I haven't seen Whitmer play, but he's proven himself at this point. But you look at Benson, you look at Malachi Martinez, and you look at Tiger. Who are the 3 top-ranked quarterbacks coming in? Those last 3 that I mentioned. To me, this should be no surprise who is left still. Highland maybe, Rocky defending state champs. But those other 3 teams, in Idaho football, it's a balanced game, right? But the quarterback position, just like I guess at any level of football, goes a long way. But we have the 4 best quarterbacks in 5A still alive, right? And I think that we saw Capital get to experience that firsthand playing against Tiger. And they're just physical up front on both sides of the ball. Taylor Freeman, one of the best receivers in the league. I know he's been doing his thing. Talon Togiai, got to give a shout out to him, BYU commit. He's been wrecking things all season long. And I don't think Capital had that. Ultimately, it came down to depth again for them. Like, these guys have been battling all season. My nickname for Cody Walk is the Gladiator, just because he's out there battling every single game. And that's really the entire Capital Eagles offense and defense. So they didn't have enough to, go travel to another tough location to win a game against, like you said, a perennial powerhouse in Idaho. So that's all I got for that one.
Hey,
yeah,
Jay, thoughts? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm actually talking to the Gladiator right now. I was asking him just kind of his opinion because we didn't get to be there. And he said it's the most dominant team physically that they've faced all year. He says Tiger's legit. They really lean on their offensive line. They want to run downhill. They want to out physical you. They want to punch you in the mouth. And that's what they're going to do. And so for Meridian, the last time I think Meridian faced a team like that was this past week, right? The top offensive line in the state probably, and they were ready for it. They handled it. What I'm hearing is that Rigby really likes the right side of the line, and they went after Capital there as well. But it was a closer game than the score, I think, tells, like Shane said. But Mr. Walk is saying that, man, these guys are legit. This game with Meridian is going to be – it's a toss-up because obviously Meridian handled Capital just like Rigby did. And so I'm excited for this one. I'm excited to see how physical this Rigby team really is. I think Meridian's going to be better defensively just based on what I'm hearing. But if Meridian doesn't put in another performance like they just did, I don't think it's going to be the same outcome. And I think they need to be ready to go, and these linebackers need to make plays. And the thing is, I think there's going to be some, and we'll talk about this game later, but I think there's going to be some serious big hits in this game with all the physicality and Nathan Reynolds and Tiger and these linemen and all that. So Capital, great season. They really showed us something late. But you're right. Having to go to Lewiston and win, and then having to go over to Rigby against what you said, Shane, I agree. An elite team, definitely probably a top 1, 2, 3 team in the state, obviously. was just a lot for them, but good for Capital for, getting to where they got. But this Rigby team, like you said, they're just a different level. You got to play your A game to beat them.
100%. Shout out to Rigby. We're excited to see you guys. We'll have some coverage of that this week, coming here to Meridian. And for those who are wondering, I know this has been a question that came up on our feed a little bit as well. Why is Meridian hosting based on the rankings? What we were told, shout out Jason Moore. I asked him at the game on Friday, what the reasoning is behind that. And they go off of the bracket, the way that the bracket's set up. So there's a top half of the bracket and there's that bottom half of the bracket. There's two sides of the bracket and they meet up for the championship. In that bracket at the top teams that are on that top side of the bracket, those are the ones who host. Same thing on the bottom side. Like those teams that are on the top half of the bottom side of the bracket are the ones who host, which is why Eagle is also hosting Highland. So some people would say, well, they're not ranked the same. That's what they're not ranked as high. That is why. So Meridian will be hosting Rigby. We look forward to seeing Rigby and their physical team, well-disciplined, physical, elite team. We're excited to see you guys come here to the Valley. We're going to welcome you here with open arms, and we look forward to providing coverage for that this week. We'll talk about that here in just a bit. Now, up north, the Mustangs, they went to Coeur d'Alene, not an easy place to play. We talked about the state playoffs prior to the state playoffs happening. We talked about how hard it is to play. We talked about how Jason Moore mentioned it, Lewiston, Coeur d'Alene. Like, it's hard to go up and play. Like, teams don't do typically, historically speaking. But Capital took care of Lewiston, and here now, Eagle is taking care of Coeur d'Alene. Shout out to Kaizen for getting us some updates while we were obviously not able to travel up there. And we were able to see more of that game and get a little bit of a perspective of what happened. Sometimes people see stats and they don't realize what actually transpired during the game. But when we can get updates like that, where, Kaizen was tagging us in some different posts, we're able to see those things. We're able to provide that to the fans. We as well, all three of us, can see what's going on in the game. Game was pretty close, very close up until the very end there. But one thing that we found out, Kaizen said the same thing. He's like, hey, it doesn't matter what the weather is. His words specifically, J-Bone's going to spin regardless. Meaning he can throw the ball regardless. He threw for 250-plus yards in the rain against Coeur d'Alene. A huge one I believe it was Duarte at the end of the game to kind of pull away. That was the one that kind of broke, the straw that broke the camel's back right there. It kind of ended it for things. Great route by Duarte. And fantastic pass. He executed. That's what you got to do. Just make make the throws, make the plays when you got to make them. And Eagle comes out victorious, which is why they're going to be in the semifinals hosting Highland. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Eagle and what you know from the game and what you take away from it.
Yeah, I'll jump on this one. Gage Jones was a man amongst boys, is what Mr. Kaizen and others have told me. And it actually sounds like it, because he was just offered a full ride by Idaho State University. Not a preferred walk-on, a full ride for Mr. Jones, and that's huge.
Well, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, congratulations. He deserves it. His dad and his family are originally from over there, so super exciting for all of them. But anyway, yeah, he was, I think, the best player on the field, from what I hear. But J-Bone, man, this kid has a couple offers now. He may have a couple more on the way. The start of the year, didn't know if he was even going to start, but the kid can play. He's even keeled. He doesn't get too emotional, leads by example. His guys trust him. Everybody likes him. The leadership is there for Eagle. And I always thought, all year I've thought, Donovan Jones, Gage Jones, I know those guys. I know that leadership's going to be there. But J-Bone Benson, fun story, Ethan Makita actually was big in bringing J-Bone back this year, in recruiting him to come back to Eagle. These guys, a group of these guys, I think a group of 8 to 10 of these Eagle kids made a promise to each other. I think it was when they were in middle school that they were going to win a state championship. So they went back, they get J-Bone. I actually have a picture that I'm going to be posting of it from a source. But these guys promised each other that they'd go win a state championship. They're 2 games away from doing it. They get semifinal home game at Thunder Stadium. I believe the weather's going to be nice. And I think, it could be a good situation for Eagle. But they game planned around Cameron Coate for Coeur d'Alene. They held him down enough. This game came down to one play. Ultimately, 2 plays, I guess. Coeur d'Alene is in field goal range. I think about a 30-yard field goal with 4 minutes to go, down 2. they're doing a good job holding Eagle down most of the game. The field goal, I don't know who blocked it. I was trying to find out, couldn't find out. The field goal was blocked. Huge play. A couple plays later, you've got J-Bone finding Duarte, and he just ends the game. And so very emotional win for Eagle. You know, I'm sure a lot of energy went into going up there, having to get prepared against a team like that with one of the best players in the state, Cameron Cope, winning that game the way they won it. And then now they're back here. I think it's great that it's a home game. I think it'd be really tough, just like for Capital, to go on the road again to a different place and try and win that game. I think being at home is going to be big for Eagle. Don't know which way I'm going to go yet, but I think Eagle found a way, and the great teams find a way, especially on the road. This Eagle team, like you said, Shane, has been as hot as they come. You know, they've got so many elite weapons when it comes to the Idaho athlete and Donovan Jones and Ian Duarte. I'm interested to see if Deegan Martino will be back. Shout out to Roy Hull, who had a great week, a huge touchdown in that game, big physical back. I think Martino gives them another element with how shifty and quick he is and his ability to catch the ball. So I think Martino being back, if he's back, is going to be huge. Not sure if that's happening yet. But another shout out again to Ethan Makita for his leadership on the sideline and his positivity and belief in these guys. He can't be there, but he's there making a difference. And, you know, it's so cliche, right? But it's real, man. Like that type of energy, that type of leadership makes a difference. And so Eagles got something going. Can they continue to go? We'll see. At home semifinal to get to the ship. Congratulations to the Mustangs, because none of us were too sure they were going to be able to pull that one off, but great win.
Solid. Ty, you got any words for it before we move on? I want to know your thoughts.
I do, yeah. Going back to the Duarte touchdown, late in the game, when you have a small lead, a lot of teams get passive, right? Their aggressive play calling goes out the window, and a lot of times that allows teams to regain the lead or take over the lead on them. Shout out to Eagles play caller for taking a deep strike to Duarte in that stage of the game. I mean, I love the deep strike. I'd like to see it more from teams out here. I think high school ball is the perfect time to air it out, in my opinion. You get into the next level and you're going to get better and better defenses. So right now is when you need to perfect your deep ball and get that going, which J-Bone has proven he has it. But just the fact that they took that strike that late in the game when they could have, done a little bit more of a methodical drive down the field, use Roy Hull to kill some clock. A lot of times that ends up, you go 3 and out, you kill no time, and the other team gets the ball back. So I love the play calling there. You named a few guys. I'd like to give a little shout out to Eli Makita, sophomore linebacker, who has really stepped it up this season. Making that family look good. That's just what they do. Ty Ball holding things down in the middle for them. He has been a solid piece for them all season long. One of the top tackle leaders and sack leaders. And their defensive line too. I mean, these guys have defensive and offensive line, undersized unit, just athletic maulers, and they're taking care of business. So I'm proud of that whole team. Right now, them and Meridian, they have been the most well-rounded teams. I've mentioned it about Mountain View, that they have pieces that they were lacking to get to that state championship throne, if you will. Just not enough balance, in my opinion. But these two teams, Eagle, Meridian, they just have it clicking on all aspects of the ball. So,
dude, Eagle was our dark horse. They were our dark horse. AJ mentioned it at the beginning of the season. We're talking 9 weeks ago or whatever it is now, and now we're seeing why. We posted this on Twitter. Eagle was our dark horse, and now you're seeing why. You're seeing this. They are clicking, and the cool thing about Eagle is they can win in multiple ways. I've been to games where Eagle was struggling to pass the ball, so let's put it on the ground, and they get physical and they figure out how to get it on the ground and then open up the pass game that way. I've seen games where they're pass heavy, and that's how they're doing it. They can win the game, and they've got capable players to do it. And so that kind of brings us into our next discussion here, guys, is we're going to break down quickly for you the semifinals coming your way. Winners go on to the championship here in Idaho. 2 games in the Treasure Valley we're excited for. We're going to start here talking about Meridian versus Rigby. We talked about both teams already. Solid quarterback play on both sides, two elite guys. But the thing is, some would like to say Malachi versus Tiger. It's not really Malachi versus Tiger. It's Malachi versus that Rigby defense, and it's Tiger versus that Meridian defense. That's kind of how we have to look at it that way, because they don't obviously play each other and like go against each other. It's a different situation. But two solid quarterbacks coming
That's
in.
not what the fans want to hear, Shane.
No, come on. Okay, let's market it a little bit better. Malachi versus Tiger.
You are absolutely correct. It's just such a quarterback-driven sport, But no, you're absolutely correct.
There's my guru takes that I'll probably get hammered for later. That'll be put into a meme or something stupid. So there we go. I want to hear. Let's talk about Meridian as we break this down quickly for everybody. We've already talked about both teams. We're going to mainly give our picks here too. So we're going to talk about the game, give our picks. What are the predictions, Ty? As I squeak like a 16-year-old girl. Okay, go ahead, Ty. Go ahead.
Sorry, are we making picks right now?
We're going to break down the game and then give your pick afterwards.
So
what
I want to see from Meridian, I don't want to see them right now. They're high off of this win, right? Don't come in with I don't want to say a false sense of confidence, because they have every right to be confident. But keep it confident. Don't make it arrogant, right? Come into this game level-headed, like you haven't played a single game all season, and you need to go win this game. That's what they got to do. They can absolutely win this game. I'm going to wait for AJ to say what he has to say, and then I'll make my pick.
Okay, AJ, what you got? And then I want to say something after AJ, so go ahead, AJ.
No, man, I agree. I think Meridian better be ready to play physical. When this defense played against Rocky, they got the living crap kicked out of them. Half that defense got hurt, and Rocky's as physical as it gets in the SIC. So you're going to have to go up against that again. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, but you're going to have to tackle, because Tiger's 6'2", 185. He's a man. The running back is just as big, if not bigger. The offensive line is going to be the biggest they see all year. It's going to be interesting to see how Meridian starts this game, what type of tempo is set, who sets the tempo. I think Meridian is going to be able to score some points. I do. I believe the weather is supposed to be solid. If it rains, I'm afraid for Meridian. Okay, I am. If it's nice, I'm afraid for Rigby. So the weather for me, it will dictate a lot of what happens. And I talked about it this last week. I said, if it rains, I'm worried for Rocky. Well, it didn't necessarily rain, but you weren't able to pass the ball with the wind. So that came into play, I think. But this is going to be a serious game. You've got two of the top three quarterbacks in the state. I'm going to throw Benson in there as well. Like Ty was saying, those are the three best quarterbacks in the state for sure. Tiger's a Division I commit, Weber State. So you're going to have to come in. You're going to have to beat maybe the most physical team. You've got maybe the top defensive lineman in the state, and then you've got the top probably offensive player in the state. You're going to have to find a way to put another very well-rounded game together, because I'm telling you this offense is going to be much better than Mountain View's was, more balanced. They're a little bit more advanced at the quarterback position. And the offensive line is going to be comparable to Mountain View. So can they do it back-to-back weeks? Can you beat Mountain View and Rigby, maybe the two most elite teams in Idaho, back-to-back weeks? I think it's going to be beneficial that it's at home. And I think the Ninja Turtles are confident. They're going to have to make more plays. These linebackers who are all back next year, Ryan Quarter, Max William, Nathan Reynolds, Carson Gooley, they're going to have to step up and create some turnovers, create some negative plays, because that offensive line is going to gobble up that defensive line, and that defensive line is going to have to plug holes. And if these guys can make plays and continue to be the ball hawks that they are, I'm going to take Meridian because I believe that's what they can do. Tristan Martinez, I think, is going to be huge as well. They have so many playmakers. I think if Meridian can force 2+ turnovers, I think they can win this game. And I'm excited to see what their offense can do. I think Malachi is primed to blow up on the big stage, and I think that's what he does, especially if there's no rain involved. I think Rigby is going to be surprised on how physical this Meridian offense can be. But can Meridian's offensive line do what they just did again? Because that was the game of the year for them, and they're gonna have to do it again against a D1 commit, and it's going to be interesting. But I'm going with the Warriors. No question, after what they just did. I want the Warriors to go win the whole thing. Go Warriors.
I gotcha. I want to say something real quick. So physicality, obviously, it's going to be one of the most physical games we're going to see. It's going to be fun. That's part of football. I hope Meridian doesn't come in there expecting to just blow them out. I don't think Rigby's going to have 6 turnovers, 7 if you count a turnover on downs. Like, sure, you might force a few things here, maybe a turnover on downs or something. I don't expect them, though. Like, an elite team takes care of the ball. That's the reality of the situation, right? They're well coached. That's another piece of it. Well coached. They've been there before. I mean, they made it to the state championship last year. Tough fought game against Rocky. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're not scared of the moment. That's the thing. And I say that a lot. Meridian, this is the first time they've been in this situation since 2007. And so, like, let's just be real. I mean, for these kids, it's the first time they've been here. For Rigby, that's not. And so they know what's going on. It's going to be a physical game. And going to what AJ's point was, like, lane integrity and gap integrity. I know people don't want to get into the X's and O's of football, but like on the defensive side of the ball, like you were just talking about the linebacking core having to fill, like, when you're going up against an elite offense, what happens a lot, especially at this level of football, is you start the game with like certain people, filling gaps and taking on double teams so that these people can do this, that, and the third. But what happens is when you see this all the time in high school football is when it's a tough game or maybe you're losing, all of a sudden everybody wants to become the cowboy, the hero. And so they start taking over other people's assignments and they leave the second level to get taken up by this pulling tackle instead of this guy taking the tackle and letting the linebackers fill the hole. What you see is that happens a lot. And that's when teams start to chunk off 6, 7, 8 yards of carry. And hopefully, I am hopeful. I believe that I'm confident, I should say, Meridian can do that. They're going to be able to, they have the right guys. They play for each other. They're not selfish. I believe that they're all in there for each other. So I don't expect that to happen. But I want to make sure they understand that, like, when you're playing on the defensive side of the ball and you've got assignments to make, you've got to stick with them or else it can really get out of hand. I think it's going to be a dogfight. Meridian's going to hate me for this. I think Rigby's got what it takes. I really think they do. I think it's going to be a dogfight, and I think the experience from Rigby is going to pull them in front. And people are going to hate me for that because I'm a Meridian guy through and through. That's my alma mater. I love them, and I'm cheering for them. I just think Rigby has that it factor, and it's not that Meridian doesn't. And if Meridian wins, I will be the happiest person in the world too. But I'm picking Rigby in this one. I am. Ty.
I got a bunch of guys on Meridian. Gotten to know them really well this year. I'm probably never going to be allowed back there after my next sentence, but I think that this is Rigby's moment. I think that they're still sitting on last year's state championship loss, and I think that they all want to go prove this. And that, again, like you just said, it's not that Meridian doesn't want to go prove it either. They got probably even more to prove. First time being at this stage since 2007. Like, that's crazy. That's awesome that they're here. I think that this might be I got to go with Rigby. Simple as that.
Okay. So Ty and myself going with Rigby, Meridian sticking with AJ sticking with Meridian.
Quick reminder, if the Warriors win state this year, made a little friendly wager with Nathan Reynolds, although I didn't give him a wager on the opposite end, so that was a bad bet. But if they win state, these beautiful locks got to go. So not that I'm rooting against that. If they were to win, guess who's going to do it?
Let's go. So, we're all cheering for Meridian. Just so you guys understand, like, Meridian, the guys know it. The parents know it. I love them all, right? But
I don't know if they all know it, but they're coming around.
They should understand by now. Like, I love them.
I would hope. It's all love.
We're here for you guys, and we're cheering for everybody, but we're here to provide high school football coverage, and that's what we're here to do. And I think Rigby deserves some credit. But we would love to see Ty get his head shaved as well.
And again, that's why I picked Mountain View last week, right? Did I think Meridian could win? Abso-freaking-lutely. But had to give credit where credit was due, and that was the top team in the state.
Yeah.
Now, can Meridian go do it again to maybe the actual top team in the state? We'll see.
Yep. We'll see on that one. And hopefully you prove us wrong. That's awesome. I think sometimes that lights the fire. It happened to Mountain View earlier this season.
They told us.
Yeah, let's go. I hope it does. Okay. Down the street, Thunder Stadium, Eagle versus Highland. We've talked about both of these teams. Eagle, here's what I told Ty before we started recording. Eagle can win this game. And I'm not disrespecting Highland at all. I think Highland is a solid team. They're in there year in, year out. They know this whole system. Highland has historically been a dominant program. It's a fun one for Eagle too. Like, it's one of those storylines like, wow, Eagle's here. What in the world? Highland but based on what I've seen, Highland has a dominant front on the defensive side of the ball. But if Eagle can come in here, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to limit the run game. They're going to have to stack the box. I think they have the secondary and Gage Jones to be able to lock down the corners, sometimes with very little help over the top. And you might have to do that. But with Highland, a lot of it's Jack Whitmer running. Eli Parrish, they'll put some guys in pre-snap motion to get some movement going on to kind of get guys out of position on the defensive side of the ball. If you can limit the big plays with Highland, similar to what Rocky did for the most part, you can limit them to at least a field goal, because if they get across midfield, then Hershey's going to probably be in range. So it is what it is. But Eagle can do that. They can keep those to field goals if they can limit those big plays. And that's what's going to happen. Jack Whitmer's going to have a big game. He's going to have to be able to throw it a little bit, because I believe Eagle has the defensive front to get it done. They have improved drastically over the course of the season. Whitmer's got the capability. He's a solid quarterback and he can run. But if he starts getting, stopped at the run game, it's going to be tough for Highland. And then obviously Eagles got to get their nerves calmed down and just focus and execute. If they execute the way that they've done in recent weeks, this last month specifically, there's no doubt in my mind that they can be in this game and potentially beat Highland, which in my opinion is, I don't know if anybody's going to call it an upset. I think Eagle could beat Highland. It's going to be a fun one, though. That's going to be a big game. Highland's more than capable of winning this and going to the ship, but so is Eagle. So I'm going to hear you guys before I make my pick, but let's start with Ty on this one.
Yeah, I think this is a very evenly balanced matchup, really. You didn't get a chance to see Highland air it out last year due to the wind, or not last year, last week. But the week before that, when they're playing at the Kibbe Dome, or not the Kibbe, geez, I'm all over the place, Holt Arena, when they were playing at home against Skyview, I mean, they were slinging it on the Hawks. So they have a balanced offense as well. I just don't think able to quite see that last week. So Eagle's going to need to be stout, but I think Eagle has obviously the benefit of being home, probably the best home field advantage in the SIC, in my opinion. But the downfall for Highland is that they have to come here twice in 2 weeks. That sucks. Kind of like the capital effect. It's hard. I think it's hard, just as hard for these out of the Treasure Valley teams to come here as it is for us to go there sometimes, right? And to have to do that back-to-back weeks, I think is going to be a little bit taxing on Highland. Could be wrong, but I think ultimately that's going to benefit the Mustangs, and that might tell you who I might pick, but we'll let AJ give his little rundown and we'll go through it.
Yeah, man. I don't think Highland's going to be slinging it on the Green Grenade and Mr. White like they did. I mean, we all know that that's what Skyview struggled with this year, especially with Aiden Martinez going out, and I know he was back. He wasn't 100%. That's what everyone started doing to Skyview. This secondary is very, very good. For me, Eagle loses this game if they don't stop the run. And that's what we've talked about all year with Eagle. If Highland comes in and is overly physical and controls the game and shortens the game and runs the clock and then plays stout defense, Highland will win this game. I think if the weather's nice, even if it's not, because we've seen what Bone can do, I think they're gonna chunk up the yards. I think Eagle's gonna be able to move the ball. I think Martino being there, like I said, will help if he's back. But if not, I think they're gonna be throwing the ball all over the field. Can they have enough of a run game if Martino doesn't play like they needed to this past week with Coeur d'Alene and Roy Hull? He's shown he's capable. He's gonna have to have a game. I know Highland's gonna come in and really play physical. To be able to play with Rocky and beat Rocky and then almost beat Rocky, you've got to be able to play at a certain level of physicality, which they've shown they can do. So that worries me a little bit for Eagle. Can Eagle match that? Eagle lost to Rocky by 20 earlier this year. Eagle should have beat Mountain View, though, and they did beat Meridian after being down 20-3 at half. So Eagle can do it as well. I think if Eagle does not stop the run, they lose this game. I don't think Highland's going to throw the ball all over them. I would love to see Highland try. I hope they try because I want Eagle to win this game. And I'm going to pick Eagle. I'm going with the Mustangs. Jed Rathbun, Tyler Ball, Eli Makita, Seth Brock, their front guys are going to have to make plays and tackle. And like I said, if they don't, they'll lose the game. If they do, if they can tackle and they can stop the run good enough and allow their secondary to, because Gage Jones and Brock White, they'll come up and play linebacker too. You can stack the box with guys like that playing safety corner. So it's got to be interesting to see a game I'd love to watch, but I'm excited to see if the Mustangs can get to the state championship, because if the state title game is Meridian against Eagle, I'm going to cry.
That's going to be tough. That'll be a tough one for you, man. You got boys on both sides.
My boys.
One quick statistic for everybody who's out there. It's kind of hard to believe this, but Eagle is on a 7-game winning streak. So what I wanted to put out here is, this is I hope everybody understands, Highland is 9-2 and in the semifinals for a reason. And shout out to Jeremy Hershey. I believe he's Ian's father. He kind of like made a comment to us, and I hope you hear this one. Like, I respect you. He's like, I didn't like the Homer picks, like we look like those SEC guys, like the SEC bias for the SIC bias. That's what I always joke about. But the thing is, we don't discredit them. I think Highland's a solid program. I think they're a fantastic team. And what I saw last week was that they were able to come back from a 21-3 deficit with a terrible weather, like absolutely terrible weather on the road against a powerhouse like Rocky. Like, that obviously speaks to their credit. But in this particular state playoffs, you had Skyview, who had lost 4 in a row, if not 5. Was it 4 in a row going into that game?
No, they had lost 4 and then won 2 or 1.
I think they won 1. They beat Bora in that game.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so I apologize for that. Thank you for the correction. So, okay, there's that. But then you had Rocky coming off a loss and a bye week. So, like, the momentum, I guess, for Skyview, there was some momentum there, but we all kind of knew, like, Skyview was these dogs, but they weren't at that level of football yet. Like, they weren't at that level of execution. Rocky was like, it was a weird situation. Right now, you're going to be coming into a powerhouse that's on a 7-game win streak, who is clicking in Eagle. So, like, they beat Meridian, Timberline, Skyview, Centennial, Cuna, Bora, and then Coeur d'Alene just right after that. And that's after their 7-point loss to Mountain View, and then they just went on a tear the rest of the season. So Eagles rolling, and that's where I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, okay, I know Highland's awesome, but I'm also picking the Mustangs. I think that they've got this aura. Like, I think it's the Mustangs, man. I think it's the Mustangs who are going to pull this one out. And I hope Highland takes that and says, okay, and comes right back at me on Twitter and says it. And that would be awesome, because I appreciate that. That's the beauty of high school sports. But I think the Mustangs got this one.
Yeah, I apologize to Mr. Hershey, but it's a homer roundabout here. Going with the Mustangs.
All right.
Donovan Jones is on their team. Like, he's my favorite player, and I'm a Donovan Jones fanboy. And he's had some solid games lately, and Duarte's been blowing up. I think Donovan Jones is ripe for a big game, Mr. Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah.
Let's go. So for all those who are listening, make sure you follow Ty over at Boise Sports Talk on Instagram. That's his main dude. You'll see all of his dope graphics. He's covering sports from all across the valley. He's got everything from Boise State soccer, basketball, football, hockey, which is huge now. Like, he's covering it all, College of Idaho and much more. He's got all of that over there. Follow AJ at EBC_media. He is doing everything. Volleyball in high school now. We've got everything. Of course, basketball he's got it covered, right? And if you want to follow me, go to at Gametime Guru. That's my podcast platform where I'm interviewing sports figures across the globe every single week. But we have our separate entities. But again, on behalf of all of us, that's Ty from Boise Sports Talk, AJ from EBC Media, myself from the Gametime Guru. We are the Idaho Underground Sports Network. This is Jim Session. We're signing off.